This is my 2014 Ford Fusion SE. It is equipped with the 4-inch non-touchscreen manual climate control front entertainment stack. I'm going to be upgrading this to the Ford Sync 3 with the 8-inch with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The kit I purchased did come with some tools, and they are actually perfect for getting this radio out. The first part you will need to remove is this trim around the shifter. There's a snap clip in each corner, one here and there. Once this is removed, you may then remove the rearward piece. Begin by starting in the front corner and lifting up and working your way around to disengage the 3 clips. Once those are removed, you may remove the trim around the radio. Behind the shifter, lift towards the center of the car and straight back. This whole panel will slide back on one side. Once they're loose, either using a panel tool or hand, carefully work towards the top of the dash on each side, ensuring that the bottom is free. Once free, you can remove the entire center bezel trim. After the trim is removed, there are 2 screws holding the air conditioner control panel. One here, one here. I've already removed these. You may then remove the air conditioner control panel. Sometimes the hazard button may get pressed, so you may want to depress that. Go ahead and unplug both of those connectors and set this control panel aside. The 4-inch screen will be held in by 4 screws. I already have 2 of these removed. I have the screws removed from the audio control module. Please disregard, I do have additional accessories installed in this vehicle. You will need to disconnect this connector closest to the antenna. This is for the original sync system and will be replaced with the adapter harness. Next, we will need to gain access to the center console to run the USB cable for the media hub, which is located inside the center console, as well as gaining access to the Sync 1 module. Access to the center console is relatively simple. Once you have your center console lid open, you will begin at the front. This panel will pull towards the door, straight towards the side of the vehicle, all the way towards the rear. It will be the same process on the passenger side. Next will be to remove the lower console trim. Beginning under the cup holders, pull back until the clips disengage. Work all of the clips out, front to rear, until you are able to slide the panel up, back, and then out of the vehicle. Process will be the same for the passenger side. To remove the cup holder assembly from underneath the edges, lift straight up. Panel will disengage. We can set this to the side. You do not need to disconnect your ambient lighting or your parking brake. We only need to access the USB cable here, which goes to the media hub. In the passenger footwell, in the front of the center console is the original Sync 1 module located here. To remove, grab the unit, slide towards the passenger side, and it will disengage from its rail. This may be unplugged and discarded. Next, we will need to install the USB hub cable, the primary adapter harness, the new USB media hub, as well as the GPS antenna. To remove the original USB media hub, after the cup holders are removed, you may press up on the rear of the hub and it will disengage from the panel. You may disconnect both of these and remove the existing USB cable. The new USB hub trim may now be installed. Please note, the large side will be towards the passenger side of the vehicle and these angled corners will be down. Correction, I made an error. The large part of the USB hub adapter panel goes towards the driver's side of the vehicle in order for the USB hub to line up in the correct orientation. The USB cable may now be routed through the hole for the media hub and snapped into the existing holes where the original harness was removed. When routing the cable, ensure that it snaps into the holes and it will not interfere with the locations here, here, or here. That is where the side panel will clip in. I found it is possible to insert the cable without removing the upper tray by going down at an angle through to the other side. Next, we will run the harness. Beginning with the radio end of the harness, large connector first that has the RCA plug, feed up through the corner, and you should be able to receive the plug here in the center console. You should be left with these three connectors and the RCA up top, as well as the power for the USB hub and the sync module connector left in the passenger floorboard. I found it's best to route these behind this brace for connection to the screen. Next, we will connect to the sync media harness and route the power for the USB hub. For the sync media harness, you will connect the new connector to the existing connector that was connected to the sync system. Ensure the connector is lined up properly and closes when the lever is pushed. It may be tucked away in the location of the existing sync module. New USB cable may also be routed up. The power cable for the new sync USB hub can be ran underneath the air ducts and then pulled through the gap underneath the shifter here. Here's the other end of the power cable coming from under the shifter. I had tucked it here underneath the carpet where it will be clear from the clips for the side panel. These can now be plugged into the sync USB hub. Connected, the sync USB hub may be pushed into position. Holder may now be reinstalled. Please note, the fingers in the front of the cup holder assembly must slot into the center console. Ensure all the clips are seated, and then you may push down to engage. Lower side panels may be reinstalled. My dash wiring will be slightly different, as I do have a 4-channel amplifier. However, the connections will be the same. This harness underneath the air vents directly is the existing cable that plugged into the 4-inch screen. This has the video signal for the backup camera. My 2014 did not come equipped with a backup camera. However, I did use parts from a newer Ford Fusion and installed a backup camera. There is some wiring involved that does need to be completed in this portion of the center console, as well as the trunk harness that does need to be replaced. This connector will connect to the video inlet connector on the adapter harness. If you are not using the original Ford camera, you will use this video connector here, and you may install your own backup camera. However, you will need to supply power and reverse signal to the new backup camera. Final connector from the new harness will plug into the radio in this location. Ensure that it's fully seated. The ACM may be reinstalled to the dash and secured. The GPS antenna must be installed facing up. It may not be mounted under metal, as it will cause problems with navigation. The best place that I have found to install this is behind the instrument cluster next to the existing GPS module. Once the instrument cluster is removed, we can see the factory GPS module, which controls the compass. There's a perfect spot right here that has no obstructions, that is close to the radio, and is easy to run the wire. So removal of the existing cluster is extremely simple. Center panel here, lift straight up, pull back. This lower panel, slide that back. It's going to reveal two 7mm bolts. Let's remove those. Now that I have the 2 bolts removed from the headlight switch panel, this will lift straight back towards the rear of the car, exposing this 7mm bolt that holds in the instrument panel trim. We're going to have the same bolt over here on this side that can be accessed by taking this panel and pulling straight down. It'll cause the entire lower knee bolster panel to hinge downwards. So let's go ahead and remove those 2 bolts to gain access to our cluster. Now that I have those bolts removed, I can take this panel, pop it forward, it should just pop right out. One moment, this does take 2 hands. And now that we have that panel removed, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolts holding our instrument cluster panel in. Now that those 4 bolts are removed, you can take your cluster, pull it towards you and up, and you can pull it up and around to the side of the steering wheel, and you can reach your connector. Here is the GPS antenna installed. I coiled the excess up here, and the GPS antenna may pop out just above the air vent into the screen cavity. With the brackets installed on the screen, it may now be installed into the dash. Note that the connectors will go down. Install. Alright, so I ran into a very interesting problem while swapping over to the Sync 3 system, specifically with the air conditioner. So that has to do with the temperature control. On the factory system, obviously, rotate to hot, that's hot. Rotate to cold, that's cold. On the new one, going down in temperature makes hot. Going up in temperature makes cold. This is what I found. So apparently, there's a difference between the 2 systems. I found a diagram here that shows the difference, right? You have a driver door, or a driver temperature actuator and passenger temperature actuator. Well, if you have manual climate, this connects to here, or something like that. But with some digging, I found out that we have to move 3 pins from one plug to the other. So here are the plugs. This would be plug 1, plug 2, as shown here in the picture. So to open this connector up to get the pins out, right here, there's a little lever you have to push to the side, right here. You pull that to the side, and then you slide the shell of the connector off, and now you have access to the pins. So looking here at the connector, now that we have it disassembled, there's a small 1 right here and a 13 right there. So we can count our wires. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are blank, 7, and then we have 8, 9, 10. Looks like blue with a white stripe, yellow, and purple with a white. That matches pretty well with this diagram here. Blue with white, yellow, and purple with a white. So we have identified the correct wires. So I'm going to start by removing the first wire in the pair, which is going to be the blue with the white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pin 8 comes down to here. So we should only have to lift up on the lock tab, and then we should be able to pull that guy right out of there. So just to show you how to depin this, I have the wire prepped. You just have to give a little bit of pressure back on the wire, and then gently lift up on the lock tab. Out it comes. So here's the second connector. First thing we need to do is remove that, which I will find later. That took off to the floor, keep that in mind. The pin markings here are on the top. Looks like 1 is here, 17 is here. There's some small numbers down in here. Appears that 3 is in the top left, and it goes across to 15 on that top row. Very hard to see. Super small. So with the connector at the top, yes, 15 is over here on the right. 3 is over here on the left. So I'm just going to double check that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So yes, this is 15. So 14 is going to end up being our yellow wire. 13 will be our blue wire. So our blue wire will then install there. (15, 14, 13) and go 2 over. I'm not exactly sure which way the lock goes. Probably up. So we'll place that there in 13. Doesn't fit that way, so let's try the other way. There we go, and that locked in. So now I just need to do the same thing for the yellow wire right next to it. So we have our yellow pin 9. Which will then install into 14. And you can hear the lock in. So now those two are joined. So then the last wire is going to be pin 10, which is this violet wire here on the first harness. And this will go into 18 of this harness. Which appears to be right there. 18. Can't read that one. So if this is 15, 16, 17, that would be 18. Before I clip this in, I am just going to look up a pin out real fast. Here's the connector. We can see right there, the first corner, 18. And to verify, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, etc. So, I am correct in that assumption. So let's go ahead and insert that pin into the correct spot. Of course, like USB, always backwards the first time. And locked in. Great. So let's go ahead and connect it to, well, first I need to locate the front lock. Yeah, let me find that first. All right, so I found the end of the connector. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that back on. And the same for this guy. Okay, pretty obvious which way it goes. The wires bend in one direction. So that should be set up there. Let's see if everything will reach. Ooh. We're going to need to open this tape up a little. Oh, Tessa tape. Oh, this stuff is always a nightmare. There we go. I was able just to move that tape back a little. Let's try again. Okay, we're plugged in. No smoke. Let me move the camera and let's see if this air conditioner works now. The climate control panel may now be plugged in and pressed into place. I did run into one slight problem after installing the HVAC trim. The hazard button was getting caught on this trim right here. So my solution, I loosened the bolts and lifted up on the vents and tightened them back down on each side, and that gave enough clearance for the button to not get stuck. Now that I have that resolved, I can go ahead and screw this down and replace the rest of the trim. Installation of these side panels is reverse of removal. They just snap right back in. Likewise, this is the same about the radio trim. I find it best to start in the top middle and then just work your way around the sides, pushing all of the clips in until it's sitting all the way flush. Finally, the lower console trim can be installed. And lastly, the shifter trim snaps right back in. You can then power your system up, even with the key out of the ignition, as long as the vehicle is unlocked, and test operation of the stereo. If also equipped, you may also wish to test the operation of the backup camera. Vehicle does not need to be running. Ignition will need to be on. There we go. And as we can also see, I do have dynamic guidelines as well. Vehicle's not running, so a little hard to steer, but this car was not equipped with a backup camera from the factory. I will say it is definitely worthwhile looking into finding one of the titanium instrument clusters. It was very simple to install. I did need 4Scan to reprogram my odometer. However, this side of the screen works absolutely perfect, including climate. You can set your temperature and it will automatically power on the climate control, and you can control the climate from the steering wheel. As long as you don't have dual selected, it will control everything. Note that because of the way the system works now, your primary temperature control is now this one. This temperature is what actually controls your dash. But other than that, the system works flawlessly. Navigation is functional. Climate is functional. Audio works. As long as you have everything installed correctly, Android Auto should populate. If you do not connect your USB hub in the center console, down here, Android Auto will not pop up. Now, this system, mind you, I am recording from my cell phone. When you connect to the Type-C and plug into a cell phone, should detect and have access to Android Auto. Also note, through entertainment, whatever is connected and playing through Android Auto will also show on your instrument cluster. Very easy to install, very worth it. This 2014 Ford Fusion just got brought into the 21st century. Thank you for tagging along, and I wish you luck. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.